Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight. Today we have probably the most famous man on campus, Drew Sohl, who was the legend himself, the cyclone aide, also my roommate, which not a lot of people on this show get to talk about, and I forbid you from saying anything super embarrassing. But Drew, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and then say some of the important things that guests or viewers know about you.
Yeah. Do I look at you?
Yeah, you can look at me. You can look at my beautiful eyes.
Hard not.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I'm Drew. I'm a sophomore. I'm majoring in Culinary Food Science. I'm just giving the cyclone aide intro.
Yeah, you are. This is a trap.
It's built into my soul.
Did you feel yourself going into autopilot?
I'm getting brutally warm all over, and I feel like I'm in an uncomfortable polo.
You're getting PTSD every time you say my name is Drew Sohl. I'm a sophomore studying culinary food science.
I still do it. It's because I'm doing it for stars too, and it's just it's in my the back regions of my brain.
Do you ever wonder if Cyclone Aid made us more narcissistic or less narcissistic?
I think it made me way more narcissistic.
Very rarely do I feel like I'm talking about myself, and I get so excited by all the aspects where I get to talk about myself.
It's just going back over all the stuff I did. I'm like, wow, I'm kind of a Chad, aren't I?
Yeah. Chad Cyclone Aid. Yeah. Well, and it was so funny because we're doing the I think the hardest position to do was when we were in the MU and we're doing everything with the students and we had those small groups. Not a single person cared about what we had to say.
That balanced out the narcissism.
Yeah, there's nothing more humbling than saying a joke and then looking at 8 silent people.
Yeah.
They're staring at you like this.
Yeah. Nobody cared about anything I did. I thought I prepared jokes the night before.
You'd write them down.
I'd write them down. I was getting stuff to say, and I'd say them, and nothing. I'd get one
the pity.
Yeah. It's just the worst feeling.
Well, it's the difference between interacting with the students was so funny because the students could not give less of a shit about what you had to say, but the parents you'd kill every time. You were the opener for the best stand-up comic in the world when you were working with parents.
Nothing like a mom laughing at your jokes that you've met 5 minutes previously.
Yeah. Oh man, or you're trying to work something out and you think it could be funny, but then you think it's cringe and then you accidentally say it and then the crowd erupts with laughter and you're like, oh, that was good. And then you try that same joke on the students.
Crowd goes mild.
Crowd goes mild.
Nothing.
Crowd goes silent, dude. They stare at you.
Just absolutely nothing.
It's let's shut these kids up.
And apparently that's the part of Cyclone Aid I couldn't get enough about because that's basically all I do in stars.
It's all just interacting with students in small groups?
Yeah, it's a lot of, you take students on a tour and you go to all the different locations and you tell jokes and they don't laugh.
Oh, it's so brutal because stars is aren't they high schoolers?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's somehow even worse.
It's juniors and seniors in high school, so they've still got that high school insecurity, but they also need to be super cool and also don't care.
Yeah.
Actually don't care.
It's the trifecta of horrible horrible tour experiences.
Yeah. And it's sometimes I get hits. Sometimes I get groups where people I get some chuckles. I get some questions. It's nice.
It's the most validating thing.
I like answering questions because it makes me feel like the job training was worth it.
The 200 hours of training that we got.
Yeah.
Wait, did you have to do, how much training did you do for stars?
So stars, I want to say it was how long is the semester? I want to say it was 6-7 weeks probably.
And then how many hours a week?
There's weekly meetings which are an hour or so, and then there were going out with your mentor and doing 3 stops on the tour, which was awkward because
you already knew it. You already knew the whole thing.
Yeah, so it took 20 minutes. It was supposed to take, I think, longer, but
yeah. What's so crazy though is that you just learned what took us 200 plus hours of education to do for stars.
I keep reflecting back on last semester of showing up at like, was it 7 in the was it 7 in the 8 in the morning?
It felt like 7.
Felt like 6. Show up at 8 in the morning. It's cold. And we sit down and we get talked to for an hour, and then I run over to stats lecture. And it's just like, looking back, I actually don't really remember what happened in the class ever, like on any given day.
I just remember we're like 3 weeks in, and then now we're doing skits at 8:30 in the morning, and I'm like,
we're part of a comedy troupe.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I'm not built for this.
I was like, what a process? Like, who is awake? I don't know. If you wanted to make it feel even more like 4 o'clock in the morning, throw me on stage and start having me like memorize lines and doing these skits. And I don't know, the whole thing. And I've talked about this with a couple other aides. I'd say the whole thing was like, I have so much respect for the staff. I have so much respect for what it was, but it's kind of like, what is it? It was kind of like hazing. You know what I mean? Like the whole thing was kind of like hazing, in that like,
that's pretty accurate. Actually,
you do so much learning so that you get closer with the cyclone aides. But it's not actually necessary. You know, you could perform the job if it were just a job, but it's not just a job.
It was a nice hazing. That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And so it's like, it is funny to look back and be like, what the hell did I just do? But at the same time, like, I don't want that to diminish from like, it was really cool and like really good, and probably the pinnacle of my college experience socially so far.
Absolutely.
But like, holy moly, were some of those things, like when I think about rooming with like 3 pretty much strangers, like during an entire summer, and I'm catty corner from like 8 more strangers. It's just the most bizarre.
Yeah.
And then we all go to Okoboji and like are on a boat, like jet skiing. And I'm like, how did this happen? Like, how did we go from here to here? You know, the whole thing was just wild.
Yeah, it's just like, looking back, even like during the semester though, I feel like I didn't talk to that many people. Like during the semester, like towards the end, I've talked to like, I've talked to everybody. I've talked to like
2 people,
maybe a little over 10, if I'm being generous with myself. And then I met everybody during training week.
That's what I'm going to say. Like, I didn't know everybody's name until probably the first week of July.
Yeah.
Like, there were some people, everybody, it seemed like everybody knew everyone else's name. But even during June, I think Maddie called me Benji and didn't like correct it. She's just like, "Oh, what's up, Benji? How you doing?" And then I just like spoke as if I was Benji.
Just rolled
with it for like 6 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one who's like like doesn't know everyone's name just quite yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know, that the whole thing. Well, it's just bizarre. Like, you're thrust into this room of 40 people, and I just love to think about my impressions of the people at the beginning and then how they evolved to the end, especially at that hypnotist show.
Oh my God.
That hypnotist show was, how'd you feel? Because you were laughing a ton.
Oh, it was just like, I kind of believe in it now. Like, in the back of my mind,
really?
I don't, but I kind of do. I'm kind of convinced. It's like, I wouldn't imagine you could make Keaton dance like that. And like Justice, and everybody was just boogieing, and like every other row, and I'm just seeing people dancing, and I'm like,
it's either fun or fun. Like, you know, whether or not it's real doesn't matter. I don't think.
It's like, is it like sleep paralysis? You're like trapped inside your body or something?
I don't know. All I can say is that for me, I collect cringe. Like, that's my thing. It's like, I'm always trying to put it. So yeah, it's my superpower. I inject it. I'm always trying to like go to different places, and I'm very hyper aware of like the cringy things that I do, cringy things that other people are doing. And I've been in so many situations that are just like, how did you get there? Like, how did that even happen? You know what I mean? Like, I have so many stories that are just like, people ask me, how is this the 2nd or 3rd or 5th time you've done something like this? The hypnotist show was the cringiest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
That hurt so bad. There was 2 moments specifically that almost made me get up and leave the room. Like I couldn't I felt physically ill. I could not handle it anymore. That one kid who sprinted on stage and then the hypnotist called him out in front of 1,000 people and was like, I can't tell if you're actually hypnotized or if you really like attention. No, or if like you're faking it, but I do know that you really like attention. And then he made him sit down in timeout in front of everybody for an hour. I wanted to die.
If I was that person, I would, once he made me sit down, I'd leave through the back.
Yeah.
I'd scamper off.
I just could not imagine. And the worst part is, and if you can't grasp what it's like to be called out for faking hypnotization, you can't go back on it. Like you have to continue acting hypnotized, even though everybody knows that you're faking it.
If you were faking being hypnotized and just let the bit go and you're just on stage, I would have to transfer schools.
I would not be surprised if that kid was not here anymore. If that freshman like left schools.
Imagine he listens to this.
Yeah, I like find the one person. I'm gonna get him on the podcast and be like,
yeah, we're talking about you.
Yeah, if you're listening, reach out to me. I will give you $1,000 if you get on this podcast and walk me through honestly exactly what you were thinking. So crazy. And then Mo was the other one that made me want to leave so bad.
Felt so bad for him. It's like he was walking into walls. He was just an NPC. It was broken engine.
I think what I like to imagine is it becomes cringy to me because my instant thought is that they're faking it. And the only reason why I think they're faking it is if it were in a smaller room, I'd be like, okay, it's real. Like I could understand someone putting me to sleep. But if you're in a room with 2,000 people and you're telling me that you allowed your brain to shut off, and then also you're going on stage and saying very funny things, no way. I just cannot believe that. And so in a world where everybody is faking it, everything they do becomes infinitely worse. So like when the guy came down and was like, he came down and he's like, if your eyes are closed, you can't move. And then that's just like L, nice try. Nice try. You can't move anymore. Now you're just stuck.
You're just done. You have to stand there like an idiot
in front of everybody.
An hour.
Oh, so yeah, it was rough. If it is real, and I'm willing to admit that it could be, I don't mind 99% of the things that happened.
Absolutely.
There were just a couple things that I'm like, oh no, like you just can't do it. You can't call them out and make them sit in timeout on stage like that.
Because I'm like truly caught in between two worlds. Because like in one hand, I cannot believe this is real. On the second hand, I cannot believe all these people are faking it the way they are.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I don't. It's also. What a genius money-making strategy. Like, if you want to entertain 1,000 people, he's found a way to bring very little talent and just, like, have people be the entertainment and just work off it.
He had that on-stage personality.
His personality is great. Yeah. Like, he's a good comedian. And I'm saying no talent as in, like, he didn't really have to write anything down. He just has to be a funny person, which is really hard. But, like... It's a different stage thing than like bringing a comedy set or like music. You don't have to practice for that.
Yeah.
You're
just like instead of like memorizing a full like concert's worth of music, you just snap your fingers and make them do like just do whatever
and let people do the work for you.
Crawl like a worm on stage. You do you.
Oh, that stage is probably dirty too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that whole thing was just nuts. But back to Cyclone Aide. The difference between how I met everybody and then how I saw them at the end was just so wild.
I know. It's like everybody's my best friend now.
I know everyone's first and last names, and I'm like hanging out with them. But
it feels like elementary school again.
Honestly, seriously, it feels like you guys are in my class. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I have everybody's last name memorized.
Oh yeah, and I could like write them out, and I could recognize them by their walks.
We all tell
each
other happy birthday.
Yeah, like, except for me. But yeah,
me too.
Yeah. When was yours?
Yesterday.
Happy late birthday, Drew. That's so tragic. That's so funny.
No, people wish me happy birthday.
Not on the
I just
group chat.
remember back to like when it was the last semester and everybody's like in the group chat and one person texts happy birthday and immediately my phone explodes with 100 plus messages of like happy birthday. I'm like, what is going on?
All these pawns.
My phone isn't built for this. My battery started getting hot.
So you have an Android?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So of course, yeah. It started malfunctioning.
The screen is shattered. It's done.
Oh yeah, mine's on the same boat. I'm getting
It's been
a new one
shattered
soon.
since February.
Which is crazy. We're supposed to have like if you sneeze on an iPhone, that's when you crack the whole
You'd
thing.
think.
But I'm shocked that the Androids are the ones that are we're not repping our.
It's toasty.
We're
man.
not
It's
repping our
toasty.
kind. We're not repping our kind anyway.
Yeah. It's
But-
my dad's favorite brand.
It's Android.
Yeah, apparently. He like.
What does that mean? What does
I
that
think
mean?
he just has beef with Apple.
Oh,
like,
well,
I
it's like-
don't know where it comes from. Like we've never had anything Apple ever in our house. When my sister had to go to college, she had to get a laptop, and at Mizzou, or at least in her college at Mizzou, they required Macs. And he was like trying to like, I swear he was gonna like email the school.
And be like, this is a ridiculous requirement.
I need an exemption.
That's crazy. Honestly, that's super base though. Like,
Yeah, his beef. He must not like Steve Jobs.
I super agree because apples are terrible, but
Yeah.
I think that's just like a small but mighty. You know, like there's not a lot of other Androiders out there.
You got to pick your battles.
I know, and he picked the right one.
Yeah,
and he's
stand your
fighting.
ground.
He's fighting.
He's fighting hard.
Fighting
it's
for
like
his life.
It's like the same level as like my grandfather. They lived. My grandma and grandpa, they lived all their lives in Illinois, like in Chicago or like slightly out of the city. So all of their lives, they've had Italian beef sandwiches by them, and they love Portillo's.
Okay.
And a few years back, they moved to Las Vegas once they retired. And my grandpa messages Portillo's like every month of when they're opening
gonna
up
get one
Portillo's in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
And I think they actually are opening one now.
That's
He's
crazy.
been emailing them for legit like 5 years.
That's amazing.
When you're retired, you have the commitment to do anything. I cannot wait. I'm gonna sit on benches and like ask people questions, and I'm gonna email random brands to open stores in places I don't even live just to make them do it. I want to feel that
Powerful.
power.
Yeah. You want to? I hope they name it after him or something.
They should. You should get like a stone in the wall with like carved his name into it.
Has he ever gotten a response from them like directly?
I haven't. If he has, he hasn't shared.
That's incredible. Like, just he's like homies with like the owner
Yeah.
of Portillo's
Because
because
it's not like a big brand. It's
No.
like it just went public.
I don't even think I've really heard of them. Other than I feel like I've heard the name, but I don't
Yeah.
know like if
I
there's
forgot.
any near here.
Iowa.
Yeah, yeah, it's Iowa things. I don't know if I've ever heard of it. Yeah,
stuff, rough
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're one of the a billion Illinois ISD residents here.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Technically not, but
Yeah. Well,
technically I live in Tennessee. It's whack because
what?
my address is Tennessee because my
Why?
parents live there.
Oh.
My parents moved literally right after I got here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying.
So like filling out like credit card information. Yes, I live in Tennessee. I live in Iowa.
Yeah, yeah. I'm on the same boat, but it's only 30 minutes away. It's not an entire.
Yeah.
It's not an entire state.
I'm driving home for winter break. My parents are driving me home. 12-hour drive.
Hey,
12-hour drive back.
Should be super fun. When do you leave then?
Saturday after finals.
Your finals are on Friday.
Thursday.
Oh, you mean this Friday, this Saturday?
No, next Saturday.
Dang, dude, they're making you stay the whole week. You don't get a single day early. Damn.
Yeah. Well, my finals end on Thursday, and then my parents drive up and get there Friday.
I'll say I visited your hometown of Chicago.
Chicago, Illinois.
Yeah, I will say it was super cool. Like especially because we did it in the summer, I believe. And
I remember. I do
yeah, and
remember.
we rented the bikes.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then like you just bike around the sickest thing ever.
awesome.
One of the craziest things. I can probably count on my hands the amount of car honking I've heard in my life in Iowa. But in Chicago, it seriously is every 5 minutes you're hearing someone honk.
That background noise. You need it.
That's so bizarre.
It's the rhythmic ticking.
I don't know, do you feel like you're missing out? Where in Chicago are you?
So quiet here. I'm from suburbs. So
Okay.
just right next to Naperville, Lisle, Illinois is where I grew up. But I
Okay.
went to the city a ton. So,
Okay, yeah, so you're familiar with like
yeah.
the hustle, and that's so bizarre. What's the difference that you found between?
I mean, anywhere like Ames, I compare to like a normal town, to be honest. If like I'm comparing Chicago and like Des Moines.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Oh,
loud and clear.
my thing just shut off for some reason. I can't hear myself.
I'm still getting plenty of Elijah.
Okay, and it is switching, so hopefully that means that it's recording me. That's really funny. Anyway, continue. Sorry.
I love technical difficulty.
I know that everything just shut off. That was so bizarre. Anyway, go ahead.
Freeform now. But yeah, if I'm comparing like Chicago and Des Moines just like it's nothing. It's baby. It's like I like Des Moines. It's cool. It has nice restaurants, cool stuff, cool shops. Like if I go to Chicago, like I feel like I have the whole world to go around in. Like Chicago's almost bigger than some countries. Like it's like as big as like Ireland or something.
What?
Like just
Like
about.
population wise? Obviously.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is a dumbass question.
Chicago.
It's the size of Chicago is as big as Ireland.
City state of Chicago.
Yeah.
But it's just it feels nice. And it's not like massive like New York is or something, but it's still nice.
I just couldn't, I mean, even just the type of people, like, I just wonder when you're driving, do you get like road rage? Are you an angrier driver, do you think?
No, whenever I feel twinges of anger, first off, I don't drive in Chicago.
Yeah. Okay. Right.
Let's set the record clear. I'm not a masochist.
Yeah.
I take the train.
Yeah. Okay.
But just like road rage in general, if I ever get it, I like turn my music up like crazy and I start singing along, and then eventually it goes away in like 10 seconds.
And then it's done.
Yeah, I need to like sing like a lick or something, and then
you need to jam out for a second before.
I need to pretend I'm in a studio or something.
Yeah, because I couldn't imagine with the amount of honking I'm hearing, if every honk was an angry person, Chicago would be the angriest city on the planet.
It is an angry person.
Is it really, or is
Probably.
it just like customary, like, oh, hurry up,
There's some of that, but there's a lot of pain and anger going around when you're in traffic. I feel in any major city.
That's so foreign. You know what I mean? That's just so bizarre. Like, I don't think I've ever used my own car horn unless I'm like, I want to say like, hey, I see you. You know what I mean? Like, I've never actually used it to display any emotion ever.
Just wait a second.
Yeah, I just wait. I would probably wait 10 seconds behind a green light before I honk.
And I have also done that before.
Like, I don't know.
It's not like an anger. It's just to make sure like they're still alive.
Oh yeah. It's just like, hey, what's up, guys?
Yeah.
Just checking. Like, you can finish your YouTube video.
Yeah.
I just want to tell you that the traffic is going forward.
He got distracted. He was watching this Cocomelon. He got
hypnotized. Do you think that that's like a age thing, or do you think that's like a location thing?
Cocomelon?
No, sorry. Like us not honking.
Oh. I think it's a location thing.
Okay.
Because I've met people who honk that are like our age, and they're usually from bigger places. I'm like, what are you doing to me? I get embarrassed. I know they're not going to look back, but like, what if they do and they see me, and then they see me on campus, and they're going to like verbally like harass me, beat me up.
You're the guy who honked.
Yeah.
You're the guy who honked at me.
You're the in the shotgun of the guy who honked. I'm gonna like ruin your life now.
Yeah, that's a really like insane, obscure fear that you.
I love overthinking situations. I mentioned it once to you over the summer, like with the way I need to like arrange sodas in the fridge.
Why?
Oh,
walk me through this again.
So it's like, if I usually have got my soda set up 2x6 range of the fridge, perfect.
Right.
I take one from the front. I take another one from that column, then I start feeling bad because then it's 4 and it's 6. So I need to move one over so it's even so they don't feel bad. So it's 5 and 5. That's the thought process I go through almost like every single day.
That's insane. Are you personifying like?
Yeah. I personify like almost everything.
What do you think that does to your broader scale of personality? How do you think that affects how you interact with people?
I think I might start like seeing visions later in my life.
You're gonna start. There's gonna be more people around you.
Yeah.
Is the soda can in the room with you right now?
But yeah, like talking to people, I just like I kind of like make up shit about them in my head for a little bit until I like start getting the bigger picture. Like I overanalyze for fun.
Right.
Like I know I'm overanalyzing, so I don't like put it on their character because sometimes I'll just make up like lies about people and they're like super mean in my head, and then but like I know it's not true.
Do you?
Yeah.
Do you think it ever like slips through the cracks and you're like
the distinction is it's clear as day.
Okay, that would be.
Does this make me sound like insane?
No. I think I've heard this before. I'm a psych major, so I'm actually going to diagnose you with no. No. Well, this is wildly interesting. My thing is, I cannot see a way that this exists with you, and you don't do this with people in some facet. That would be. It would be crazy to imagine that you like genuinely care enough to make an action to organize your sodas in the fear
that they'll feel bad.
Yeah, in the fear that they'll feel bad, and you not do something like that with people. Do you think maybe you're like especially empathetic towards people in general?
Yeah, I think I am. I think that's kind of why I take the jobs I do now, because like even though I don't think I'm very social at all my jobs are talking to people.
Yeah.
Literally every
You're forcing it to.
Yeah, cyclone aides, stars. I kind of talked a lot when I was working at dining that one semester. It's kind of like everything I do, and I just like gave a presentation and stuff, and I liked it. So
that's great. You're developing into a beautiful talkative flower.
This is I'm a butterfly.
This is your public speaking arc.
Yes.
This is your introduction to when you can start giving TED Talks.
Yeah, but also like I like public speaking when it's stuff I sign up for, and like my jobs and stuff. I actually do like it. I'm in public speaking class right now. I hate it so much.
Do you have to take it, or are you just taking it?
I have to take it.
Oh.
It's in my major, and it's like
public speaking's in culinary food science major. Or that's crazy.
You wouldn't believe some of the stuff I have to take for my major.
Well, I guess
I'm in organic chemistry right now.
That maybe kind of makes sense.
It makes sense, but sometimes I mention it to people who like don't quite understand what food science is. And they're like,
what? yeah. People who are taking OChem for their like biology degree so that they can become a doctor are like struggling to understand why.
I'm sitting next to them. I come up with burger recipes. I'm like having to figure out what all these connections are and memorizing all these different things and I hate it so much. It is such a miserable experience every time I'm in lecture and I'm just listening to him and I know he's saying words. I'm listening to every single word. None of it makes sense. And my finals next week.
OChem is like one of the hardest classes on campus, I've heard. Like
I agree.
Great. What's your grade in that right now?
C.
Oh, honestly, not too terrible.
Not terrible. If I get like 50 on the final, it's really not going to make a difference. So I know it doesn't matter. I still want to do anything else but take that final. If I have to sit down for like 2 hours and do something I'm really, really bad at for 2 hours and then get graded on it instantly, because they grade those instantly, I'm gonna have a breakdown.
I dude, good luck on that. I want to get into culinary food science, but I want to touch upon this this empathy thing. So do you find, so you're like pursuing public speaking because you have this I don't even know what I'd call it. I just say that it's empathy. Yeah, psychotic behavior.
Yeah.
You know, since you're actually mentally insane. Yeah. Do you find that you're more like emotionally vulnerable to things that happen around you because of?
Yeah. Like, yeah.
Okay. And then do you find that that's a net negative or a net positive?
I don't know. It just kind of depends on what point of my life I'm at, and also like what's going on around me. Because if like I'm around a bunch of nervous people, like it's kind of fun because we can just like laughing about how much this thing we're nervous about is not going to be good. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes I'll just be in like serious situations and like everybody knows each other and I can like see them analyzing me and I'm just like trying not to have an out of body experience. Yeah. And it's like, this is whack. This is not.
Do you find that basically what I'm asking is, do you find that this way of viewing the world is beneficial to you?
I think so. Just because like I feel like I can see like pretty deeply without having to think that hard about it, which is nice. Like even if like there's like bad stuff and I can like make up stories about people in my head, I still feel like it gives me like a pretty accurate view of the world. Maybe not accurate, but at least like a very empathetic view of the world. Because like I don't like think badly on anybody. Even people have like done some whack stuff in the past. It's like I still don't think like they're a bad person or anything. I don't think anything bad about their character. Like it's messed up. You did that or whatever. But like I don't care. Like you're just a person. You can change if you want to.
Yeah. And so I'm struggling to see like what exactly this is. You know, I'm struggling to see like.
Am I giving extremely broad descriptions in a very fun way?
I'd say like it seems weird that it seems kind of contradicting to say that you are hyper analyzing these stories of people, but you still have an accurate grasp. Are these like hyper analyzations examples of what the world could be? So when you see them, you're familiar with it? Or is it more like you genuinely think?
I think it's just some really like complicated way of like my brain trying to make sense of things. And like I've taken like a small amount of like psych courses in the past, and like I watch like psychology YouTube stuff, and it's like how to like read people and like what people like do when they mean this one thing or they're feeling this one way. And I've combined that with just like I think I am an empathetic person by nature, so I just kind of like try to look at things. I find usually it's pretty accurate, thankfully. Otherwise, I'd kind of be making a lot of assumptions out of nowhere.
Yeah.
But like it's also just like, you know, taking the time to like try to see deeply about this other person and see like what makes them tick. Like what would they go like to do? Should we like watch a movie? Should we like, do you want to like sit in your room and talk or whatever? I don't know. But
yeah, well, I think it's one of the most mentally attractive things that our brains like to do. Like mine shuts off. No, I think a lot of people they want to make sense of the world around them, and they also want to justify the things that they do. And one of the avenues that they do this the most common in is assuming other people's intent, because it teaches them things about the world. It generally makes them feel better about themselves. And it feels like you have this understanding. And one of the biggest problems with psych students is that they feel like they can do this really well, but they can't. And so what I would caution is to let these assumptions be more than like thought experiments. And you said that you kind of separate these things.
Yeah.
I would struggle to separate them if I had this habit of like building this persona of a person.
Yeah.
I would struggle to separate them. But in general, I would caution against an assumption of people, because there are so many attribution errors that come from when you assume something is a personal thing when it's an environmental thing, or vice versa. And so if you're trying to make these assumptions about people, I would really worry that it's causing you to feel more anxious. This might be causing a lot of anxiety, generally, because if you think you know what other people are thinking, that's always going to be a bad thing, even if you're right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You got to ask, like, what is the good part of being right in this, and then what is it costing me?
Yeah.
You know, so
and it's like I do like try to look at their intent, and also like their character, but it's also like I've realized you basically can never guess what somebody's intent is and what their character really is until like you've talked to them for like at least like a week or something.
Mm-hmm.
So like I don't try to make assumptions. It's kind of nice like trying like using it as a way to like be more empathetic to people, like giving them more chances, trying to understand their perspective, that sort of thing. But like people are still gonna like do what they're gonna do, and that's like whatever.
Well, yeah, and that's really nice too. It's always like this fine line, because you could have this extreme where you're assuming everyone's intentions because you want to be empathetic, but you're getting a lot of those wrong, and you're developing a view of the world that is totally made up by you.
Yeah.
But then you have the other one where you don't care at all what other people are thinking, and you feel like you know it already, and then you have no interest
and you're just
in other
walking
people.
along with your delusions.
Yeah. And
I've been walking with delusion. I've done that before.
Yeah.
But it's also like, yeah, I feel like trying less now to like figure out a person and read them. I'm not like Sherlock Holmes. But like if I can like be more empathetic to people and try to understand their perspective, that can tell me a lot, I feel, about like what they're like actually after, what they're trying to do sometimes, or at least try to rationalize with what they're doing in the present.
Yeah, see, I mean, I've known you for about a year now, and I don't think you've picked up on the fact that I hate you, like, passionately for the last
I've
year.
picked
So,
up on it.
yeah. So I've been doing pretty good, right? So,
every time we walk past each other on campus, we say like, "Are you gonna get hit by that car?"
yeah. In my head, I'm thinking like, "Please fall down and I'll get back up. Please fall down and I'll get back up."
Manhole.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for you to be over.
Yeah, it's always an ill intent, but no, I think it's really cool, and I think a lot of people who struggle with these things just stop, you know, and it makes it so much easier when you just don't do that. But no, in general, like there are certain schools of thought that can help with like some mental struggles that are like, if you feel this way, you got to really look into yourself and see like, what do I find are habits of thought that I keep turning to? And so if you did find that you're like anxious by the world around you, in regards to people's intent, not like situations. If you're anxious about a test, like be anxious about a test.
Trust me, I am.
Yeah, about that OChem test, be anxious about it. But if you find that you're anxious about other people's views of you, you really have to assess like, how much do I actually know about what these people are thinking? Because a lot of the times you're super incorrect.
Yeah, and it's especially like in the past when I was super I feel like I've gotten, thankfully, over like a lot of my anxiety now. I feel a lot better about it now. But like in the past, especially like looking back and like seeing how anxious I was about everything, I'm like, this is crazy. I was so worried about what all these people thought about me, of all these things I made up in my head and the things I think are true and things that aren't. It's like nobody cares that much. And if they do, it doesn't matter that much about what they think about you, because you're still just rolling on like your own self. So
yeah, I know, and I like to use that cope of like nobody remembers the things that you did, but I remember some pretty specific things that other people did that were like really cringe in like second grade. You know what I mean? And they were probably like, "Oh, I bet nobody remembers that." I do. But at the same time, like as a general rule,
I can start walking up to people like that I knew for forever. Do you remember when you threw up in the second grade?
Yeah.
That was really embarrassing. You should feel really,
embarrassed about that.
You should feel really bad about it, actually.
Yeah. Like, I know I have some, like, memories that hit me, and I'm like, those people probably remember that. You know what I mean? That just, like, hit me, and like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrible. So, but in general, people aren't thinking about you. Stop being self-centered.
They are absolutely not.
I mean, I'm thinking about you all the time.
I'm always thinking about you.
Yeah, but other than us, like, everyone else is thinking about, like, everything else going on.
Everybody else is also thinking about us.
Yeah, about you and I.
Yeah.
Again, as a cyclone aide, everybody is thinking about me, like all the time. So, again, cyclone aide is being more narcissistic.
Just tunnel vision on everybody must like me.
Yeah, it's when you put on the red polo, you are just like the focal point of.
I was wearing the Stars polo on tours and stuff, and I'm like, this is giving me that same ego hit. I need to take this off, actually.
Yeah.
So I've started just wearing ISU merch just for my campus tours because I feel too official. I feel too back in the moment.
I think it's it's one of the Lord of the Rings ring that you just put it on and you just suddenly like lose your sanity because you just have so much power. So much power as the red polo.
Yeah.
There's something I wanted to ask you about culinary food science. So you're talking about like, okay. Oh, when you're doing like food as an art is such a weird, it's such a foreign concept to me. You know what I mean? Because like it is an art form for a lot of people. And you can get so technical with it. Do you feel like you will ever be using anything related to OChem when you're working on food? Do you think you'll ever be looking at chemistry? Walk me through that. It's hard to even grasp that.
So the thing with food science is it's not just like working as a chef or working in like a development kitchen for like magazines and stuff. There's also like, you could do that. You could also go down the route of like food science and like finding new like flavor compounds. Like the thing that got me interested in food science initially, this is like freshman year of high school also. I went to a lab at fair at Fermilab. And there were just like a bunch of exhibits, and the one in the back was on food science and how they made like artificial vanilla flavor because vanilla was going through a shortage. I'm like, this seems pretty cool. I've heard of cooking before. It seems sick. I can do this, and I am. So I can
the origin story.
Yeah,
vanilla inspired.
Yeah, literally. So I can do something like that. There's also a lot of people that go into like working for USDA, and that requires like a lot of supervision of product, and they're coming up with like different chemicals and stuff. So it can be a whole host of different things. So that role is more for food science students than it does for culinary food science, just because culinary is slightly more practical. But I'll still end up using the org chem, and like I'm taking food chemistry in 2 or 3 semesters, and that's basically OChem but focused around the food stuff.
What are you looking to do with culinary food science?
That product development job does sound very cool. It's like you're
gonna work for Bean Boozled and start making the lawn clippings flavored beans.
That's gonna be me. No, they sent when I got here. They sent in my mailbox like the first day of classes. I got this care package from the food science department, and it was like Pop-Tart flavor that a graduate from here made. Like she graduated like 2 years ago. Or
Which
something.
one?
It's like frosted maple Eggo waffle or something like that. And it was like, oh, this can be me.
Yeah.
I can make Pop-Tart flavors.
Imagine if they like put your name on it. Like imagine if you were a famous, like a household name.
On the back, on like the ingredient list.
About the author.
in Comic Sans, it says made by Drew on every single one. It's crazy.
There's like a picture of you and it's like about the author of this flavor. Drew grew up eating Eggo waffles, made fresh by his mom, and he'd always wondered. It's like one of those like Aunt Jemima's like stories of like growing up in the kitchen. She was always whipping up, you know what I mean? Like whatever.
It's like.
Do you have any way to explain to me how? Do you know Bean Boozled?
Yes.
Do you have any way to explain to me how that works?
It's all chemicals, baby.
But that doesn't answer that doesn't answer like my fundamental confusion.
Basically,
how did you get it to taste like dog food?
Basically, there's like major flavor there's a bunch of different compounds in everything, but you can look at the flavor compounds that are in certain things and like point out the certain ones that make this taste like most distinctively like something to you. Like it's like the same thing as like when we were initially making like banana flavored candies. We had
no banana flavored candy actually tastes like banana, but
no, because bananas used to taste like that, or at least something like that. They had this certain flavor compound in them, and that's what we use for banana candy. That's what banana candy tastes like. It used to taste like an actual banana, but now we have that one died out because of some like disease that killed that banana breed. And now we have this new banana species that we eat, and that tastes different than the candy. But if we, like, you can make slightly more banana tasting candies than like Laffy Taffy.
Is that actually the origin of, like, is that actually why bananas? Because I knew that we're on like what, the third strand of bananas right now, in all of existence. Is that really why bananas don't taste like banana Laffy Taffy, or like why banana Laffy Taffy is
Pretty much.
banana Laffy Taffy actually more accurate to banana taste than bananas?
I believe so.
That's insane. I did not know the lore. See, this is the kind of stuff that I'm looking to learn from the culinary food science. Wait, so then is like a food palette like a color palette, and you have like the main taste groups? Can you give me one example of a food taste that you know, like of like something that is recreatable, or like you don't have to like describe to me one of these?
So I don't know if it's like answering exactly what you asked, but there's different like groups. There's like cruciferous, and that's like cabbage and kale. So they have like it's broader than that because they also have like similar like physical categories, and like they chew like somewhat similarly, but they also have like similar flavors. So different groups of foods are going to have similar groups of flavor compounds. That's also backed up by the different amounts of like, is there more citric acid in this? Like fruits have more typically than like vegetables, that sort of thing. But it's like mostly around when you're doing something specific like that, it's about focusing around like different flavor compounds. It's like if you get like some like apple, pretty naturally flavored apple compound, we can isolate apple really well. But you can also make that kind of like artificial, like Jolly Ranchers green apple smell. That one's easier to make. I made it in my OChem lab a couple weeks ago, actually, which was fun.
And so now you're creating the compound for lawn clippings flavored bean boozled.
Yeah, that's pretty much how they do it. They isolate those flavors. So
what flavors? Like, did they get like, okay, there's a hint of like kind of what makes chicken taste like chicken, and then you add a little bit of like cabbage in there, and then you.
I mean, there's like, and I don't know all about this because I'm also like a sophomore still.
Yeah.
But like, I know there's like ones that taste like majorly of this one thing, and like, so that's how you do that. That's like why all the cheap artificial vanilla in the stores tastes all the same way, because it's all just like vanillin and like either like vodka or water.
That's so cool. I'd never thought about like creating food as in like a color palette. Like you have like the food wheel, and you have to like do opposites to like blend stuff together when you're creating these artificial.
Yeah, and it's cool to think about. And there's also like a bunch of other like million like minor factors based on like the taster, and that's like for like food sensory labs like down the road, which will be hype.
Do you have like a food company that you would really like to work with? Like one of those like lays that are always doing
there's
like.
a ton of cool ones. I'm looking for internships right now. Looking at a bunch of different ones. There's like, I'm looking mostly for ones in Chicago, so Chicago-based stuff. And there's like McCormick, which do like spices and stuff, but they also do like artificial flavors. It'd be cool to make artificial flavors.
Well, that would be one of the big dogs. Yeah, I feel like in regards to this. Yeah.
And there's also like. There's a little Debbie plant close to where my parents live, so I'm also looking at that and a couple other things like around that are like, this just seems cool. I can work in a food lab and make like, there was a couple companies at the career fair earlier this semester, and it was like, come make breakfast sandwiches with us, like frozen breakfast sandwiches, and you'll see them on store shelves. I'm like, that sounds cool if I want to do that.
I've never heard about this market of like, you know, like what is the John Deere for engineers to like culinary food science, like to like McCormick, you know, like what is the top dog that like every food science person is competing for?
If you're looking for a one for every, I don't know. There's just so many companies. Like honestly, it's so nice to have job security because with this major as a food scientist, market's basically always hiring. So.
That's
you can kind of do a lot of stuff, especially out of college, and in college because you're kind of just open to doing whatever. So
Well, that's so funny because it's like if an aerospace engineer came up to me and was like, I just got accepted to NASA, you'd be like, wow, that's
what?
awesome. Like,
Yeah.
what is the is the NASA of food?
Yeah.
Is it
I suppose if you're
hamburger helper?
if you're here at Iowa State, it's probably like internship wise. I don't know. It's probably Casey's, just because.
Is it actually?
Casey's is a big like. They do a lot of internships for food science here, and like.
Well, because they're launching all of their products.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like everybody like wants to like work for their food division and make like different things they can sell, either like prepackaged or they can sell it like at the storefront, like a sandwich or something. And I know that must also be a thing for come and go. I haven't seen them as much. So
I haven't even thought about
Casey's
like
is big.
Casey's is huge also. Well, and I haven't even thought about like somebody some like Iowa State student is trying to recreate what the Lay's barbecue chip does, but then slapping like Casey's on it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's nice. It's so cool. Like you can just like make your own little spin and like see what flavor is most successful if you're making barbecue flavored chips. Like that'd be cool. You can make a few different flavors with different variations, take it to a sensory lab and see which one consumers like the best, and then work with that. And then it's like
sensory lab.
All the major foods you're seeing on store shelves have gone through so much micro tuning and like just little adjustments. And it's
Well, yeah, they did that, but then I just had a bag of sour cream and onion Lays, and they forgot to put the seasoning on it. So I just had normal ass. You no idea.
Was there any salt?
There was a tiny bit, but like not like I was literally just eating oil flavored chips.
Is brutal.
I was pissed. I was like, "How did you forget?" And if you've seen my tier list, you know that I hate normal flavored chips. So lo and behold, my shock when I open a bag and there's no seasoning in it.
Pool of nothingness.
Yeah, dude, it's so that's so bizarre. You're opening my world to because food science is always. Is there a what are the nations divided up when it comes to like the nutritional side of food versus like the flavor side of food? Are you guys like at war with each other or like? Because I know that nutritionals, that's just called food science, right? Like is more nutritional.
So.
Or is that nutrition? Is it like human sciences nutrition?
Like in FSHN, food science, human nutrition is like a category. And it's like food science, culinary food science, some kind of nutrition, I think, and dietetics.
Okay.
So we all have varying levels of what we do on scales of food to health. On culinary side, we still take in a lot of health considerations because a lot of us could go into food safety testing, like USDA, that kind of area. And that could you need to know your pathogens, you need to know all the different muscles in different animals. And like, are these things like, are you violating any limits on anything? What's the nutritional content? It's important to know that, but it's also important to know food because if you're a dietitian working directly with a patient, you need to be able to like build a diet for them. I don't know that much about dietetics. Yeah. I assume that's what they do.
I've never heard of a dietetic, but
But culinary side, a lot more of us are focused on that product management, but we also do like that food safety stuff. We learn a lot about that. I took like 1.5 kind of classes on that this semester.
Okay.
So
is that kind of a sizable proportion of your entire curriculum is like health, or is it only just a few? Basically, can I come to you for food advice, like health advice?
You can come to me with advice all the time.
Yeah. Sorry. Or do you feel qualified to talk about?
I feel qualified enough to like look it up and feel like I know what I'm looking for, but also like you could go to the dietitian on campus.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
They'd probably
because
be more concise than I am at least.
Well, I wonder this because dieting it's not specific diet culture, but nutrition in general has so much money to be gained from just lying, from just straight up lying. And the diets change so much. What is healthy is then unhealthy. And just all of food science is like really what's the word, diluted, just because
Yeah.
so much of it is like pay to win. You know what I mean? Like, oh well, you just you eat my product and you're good. You know what I mean? And so it's so bizarre. And I wondered if you had any like firsthand experience of like seeing people or like understanding this concept of like what actually is true diet health and like all of these things.
Everybody, by the time they're our age, at least, I feel has at least two completely off like opinions about what make food healthy or unhealthy based on their life experiences and not according to science. Like everybody has them. Everybody.
Yeah.
I do. And I learn about it.
Yeah.
And some are more ridiculous than others, but it's kind of fun to see. Everybody has their own like delusions about what is healthy, even if they follow 99% of things like really well. Like they're going to have one like niche wrong or at least somewhat wrong opinion about what is healthy, what's not healthy, or a weird mindset thing about it. I mean, like, how do you get to be those people on TikTok that eat like raw diets and stuff, like raw meat diets, like
Liver King?
Liver King. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Like, how do you have all these opinions about food that like you don't eat like bread, but you eat like raw steaks?
Yeah.
Like, what has brought you to this point? But there's also on that money side of things that is absolutely an issue, like a whole thing about it, because I don't know when it was. I want to say it was the 50s. It might be slightly off by a decade or something.
Yeah.
But there was a kind of resurgence, or not resurgence, kind of early studies done on what is healthy for you. And a lot of those studies were not funded by anything. They were government funded. And a lot of those studies came back with the result of if you eat a lot of excess sugar and saturated fats, those are mostly what's bad for you. Sugar industry was coming to life around that time, getting out of the war and stuff. So they sponsored research and put a lot of money into the research that said, no, actually, the only thing that's bad for you is fat, and sugar is fine. Like, you can eat a lot of sugar and not have it do anything bad to you. Nowadays, we know this is obviously not true. But for a long time, that's what people thought. Up until like my mom's generation, that's what people thought. That's why people always had margarine in their fridges instead of butter, because they didn't want to eat butter because like fat is bad. Now we have like more nuanced opinion. We know that margarine is actually worse for you than butter because it had trans fats in it, which are terrible for you. And butter, like, it's a lot of saturated fat, but like it's not like that bad for you. And like if you eat a lot of olive oil, that's good for you actually, because it's no saturated fat. There's no sugar. You need that kind of fat to survive, and it's healthy for you. So it's like it's taken literally decades to get out of that opinion, and still a lot of things are tainted by it because we still have so much excess sugar even in products you wouldn't expect them to be in. We have no limits on amount of sugar and no limits on amount of salt, I think, that can be in things also, which is also not the best for you. It's like taken a whole thing. It's taken like the internet to like do its own, like spread this information wide enough to like where I feel like a good number of people know about it.
Well, yeah, and I think what's weird is even doing science on it is kind of difficult, especially because you said a little bit before this that people have their own experiences to back up. It's not necessarily based on science. My grandma is the biggest culprit of this, as most of them are. But it's this concept of taking out one thing and not realizing all of the things that leave because of that, and then blaming it on that one thing. So like, oh, I'm eating a low carb diet. You know what I mean? So now 100% of the carbs that I eat are going to come from like, like fruits, veggies, whatever. Yeah. But I'm not, on a low carb diet, you never eat a Little Debbie. You know what I mean? Because why would you? Yeah. But there are so many extra things in a Little Debbie that now you're missing out on, and you think it's the carbs that are like cutting you down, but it's really the fact that you're just not eating a Little Debbie right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so I don't know if that's a good example, but like that example of like, here's the bigger thing, all the things inside of it, you're actually losing now.
Yeah.
And then you think it's this bigger thing when it's
and everything. I find the most things with like, especially like diet culture that you mentioned, a lot of that is not like, we know that diet culture isn't like that good for you, at least a lot of those ones. But like, it's mostly just like a mindset and like a mental health thing. Like so many people are like torn up over their mental health with like food without like even realizing it that much. Like I am still, and like it's taken me a while to like realize like how my natural thought process goes, and then I have to think it through to like actually talk to myself about what is like like objectively like gonna be the right thing for me to eat right now. So it's a combination of like learning more about nutrition, but also just like figuring out how you tick, because like yeah, you could have a day where like I'm gonna eat super healthy today, and like you barely eat anything, you only eat like fruits and vegetables and like some peanuts or something, I don't know, and you're like, I had a great day, and you can do that for like 3 more days, and then you have a like binge day, and it's like it's not worth it anymore because I had a binge day, and I'm gonna gain everything back that I had worked so hard for, so I'm just gonna continue back on my regular crappy diet. It's like you have to work out that plan for yourself and work around your brain, because your brain doesn't do this correctly.
Yeah. Oh man, the brain is so wrong, and that's the brain is so wrong on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, and I think one of the most fundamental misunderstandings of like what a diet is the time. Like a diet should be done for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Like there isn't like a 6-month thing. Like a diet isn't like a 3-day thing. And so every long-term decision you make about like working out, every long-term decision about that you make about like exercise, eating, it needs to be long-term for the fullest extent. I need to imagine myself continuing to do this when I am 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, because, for the next 40 years, I should be doing this, because it's not like, oh, if I eat this way for a year, I'll look great and then I can do whatever. No, like the point of it is that to be forever. And so many people are mistaken where they're like, oh, get on this diet, thinking that it's a short-term thing, but you just need to end it. You need to stop it forever. Yeah. Like otherwise you're going to set yourself up for failure. You're going to be shocked when your body doesn't like just do what you want it to do. You know what I mean? So that in 4 days you're overeating and you're like, how did this happen? And it's like, well, because you planned for 4 days ahead. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like you need to be planning for the rest of your life. And so if you can't see yourself doing it, then it's not a good plan.
Exactly. And it's like, just like all the diet advice I'd get wouldn't be like a diet or like what you eat exactly. It doesn't really matter what you eat on a diet. It's like more of a mindset of like, have I eaten, stuff I like today that's like mostly healthy? Have I balanced out all the stuff I need in my life? Have I had enough like fiber and protein and carbs? And I have like, you can have a little bit of like fat and like sugar and saturated fat, but am I like balancing things like somewhat correctly? Have I gotten like some amount of exercise today? Do I feel okay? It's like, I feel like even like people who are like really particular about counting their macros on stuff, and like it's good to have like an amount of protein, but people like who like really overanalyze it and make sure they're getting their like the right amount of numbers that aren't like bodybuilders. I'm just like, I feel kind of bad for you, just in the sense of like it's a lot of counting to do.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think an important distinction is like one of the best concepts, or I guess one of the concepts that I hold true to my everyday life, or at least I try to, is that like difficulty 9 times out of 10 is a good thing. And like challenge 9 times out of 10 is a good thing. And so if I'm not like, it's kind of like the cringe, like red pill grind set thing, you know what I mean? Like, but if I'm not challenging myself in a day, I wonder what that does in the long term. You know what I mean? So if I'm like going based off what I want to eat, or like what I think I should eat, like on a day that's just like a day-to-day basis, I wonder what that does in the long term. And so it's like, if something is difficult, like if I stop myself from eating Doritos today, that's probably a good thing. And generally when it comes to diet, it's probably what you should be doing. Is that like, hey, I really would like to eat all of this. Why do I want to do that? Because it tastes really good. Maybe don't have that be the reason that you do it. You know what I mean? Like maybe opt for something that like is going to be, but that balance though of like not going too hard. So like, am I counting my calories? Am I eating raw steak every day because it's hard? You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, no, probably not. So there's like that balance, but I do think that there is something to be said about like eat difficult, because if you eat easy your whole life, then your life's gonna probably be easy. You're not gonna be prepared for when life isn't easy.
And I agree with that. But also I mostly just take like a challenge of it, just like in my head, like, do I feel okay? Because like if you're eating bad, you're gonna feel bad. Like you're gonna feel that brain fog. If you haven't been eating enough, or you've been eating like overly healthy, you're also gonna feel awful. So you just have to strike the balance. If that means you eat those chips today, it's fine. I mean, don't do it like every day, and don't do it like 3 times a day. But like you can have a cookie.
I say I eat cookies
as
a
treat.
Yeah. And so it is that hard balance. In general, like we said, our minds are generally incorrect about things, and so food is one of those things though, to where so many things in foods are so addictive. And so it's really hard
I was gonna say it's especially hard to do it here in the US, just because like so many of our like fast foods and like snack foods are addictive, and like made to be that way. So
and so it's really hard to like establish like, is this something that I want because like it'll be good, or is this something that I want because
I just want to destroy.
They told me to want me.
Yeah.
They told me that I wanted McDonald's. You know, and so that's a hard distinction to make. And so the whole like I said, the whole diet culture is so hard, and I feel like you should push yourself to be better always. But it doesn't have to. If it's not sustainable, then you're not pushing yourself. You know what I mean? Like you're pushing yourself too much.
You're gonna give me that. You're gonna give me that Patrick Bateman quote.
Which one?
Everybody can look better, like feel better, something like that.
Is that what it is? If they're like me or whatever, I'm just simply not there. Something like that. I'm just Ann Patrick Bateman. So it's one of those things. But so diet culture is bizarre, and I think it's a really interesting phenomenon. And I think my big takeaway from it is that you will always try to justify the things that you do. And that's kind of unrelated to whether or not it's correct. You know what I mean? So like, you're always going to be inclined to defend the thing that you do. So like, if you're hearing our conversation and you're like, that's wrong, think about what you're doing. And if that's in defense, like that doesn't mean that you're wrong, but like really think about what's genuinely motivating you to feel the way that you do. And if you can't back it up with anything else, then maybe rethink it. And like you could still be right, but
literally, I feel like that's true for like everything. Like the more you're able to get a deeper look at yourself and better understand yourself, like how you tick, what you want to like, what you like about yourself, what you wish you could change. It's like the more you're actually able to like do the things you want to, and like feel more secure with yourself, and like look at others with more kindness.
Oh yeah, I mean just a deeper understanding in general, and looking at others with more kindness is something that I feel like people don't talk about. There's always like to put on your oxygen mask before you can put on other people's, like in a plane that's crashing. And then some people have their oxygen masks on and they're not helping other people with it,
They're sitting there, just crossed arms.
Just like chilling, and so I think people forget about that next step sometimes. And so I think it's really noble of you to be looking at other people and like actually associating it with what they're thinking and trying to make it better.
Noble feels like a strong word for me.
Well, to me, I can say it because I'm me and you're you, so.
I think you're pretty noble too as well.
No, now it's weird though. Now we're both just, my job is to compliment you. You don't need to say anything. You could just say thanks or no thanks, whatever, whatever floats your boat.
No, I say like growing up especially, and like, I feel like even when it's not like a thing of like helping other people with like their emotions, it's always like a base level belief of like when you see people that like can't pay for what they want to, and when you're going to get lunch or something, then you cover them. It's like that sort of mindset just has kind of stuck with me. Like if you have the means to make other people's life better, you should, just because I think it's the right thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I understand if you're in a bad situation, mentally, financially, anything, you probably shouldn't help people just because, not shouldn't, but like you're like have to go through your own stuff and get to a better place yourself before you can because otherwise you're you might output something onto somebody else that might not apply to their life, and but it applies to yours, and it gives that sort of thing.
Yeah, or you might be doing it wrong too.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to admit as well. You can't put on the oxygen mask if yours is on backwards, so so I think that's important too. But that is a good point that you can't always apply what you're doing to other people when it's not necessarily applicable, especially if that thing is done incorrectly.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and especially when you do that, it's just better for yourself also, because you can do the things you want to, because I feel so much more secure liking all the things I do. I feel like when I was in high school and I wasn't doing as well mentally, I was afraid to like things publicly. I just had to be this body, and when I was alone, I could admit to myself I like this thing, this is sick, but I never shared what I liked out loud very often at all, looking back on it. And I do it all the time now. I'm kind of insufferable.
Yeah. You make us like it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You will.
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. I wonder how that plays into the person that you've become today, or the things that you've learned about yourself, or the things that you prescribe onto others. Because some people are terrible because they're always telling people what they like.
Yeah.
But again, I think that's a better issue to have than
I was
not saying enough.
While I was feeling more and getting more confident over time, I was also trying to teach myself not to be just objectively the worst person.
Objectively the worst person is such an awesome phrase. Such an awesome phrase. But we're running on about an hour and 15 minutes, which is awesome. I would say it felt like 5 hours. But no, okay, it felt like 15 minutes.
Felt like 3 months in summer.
Felt like orientation all over again.
We did not end up mentioning the poison ivy.
Yeah, good. Yeah, that's probably good. That's probably good. But Drew, I kind of want to give you the last word and let you talk about any lasting things you'd want the audience to know, or if you have anything to plug, go ahead and advertise. But it's kind of your word.
Yeah, I don't know. Just don't be afraid to go do stuff, and work with yourself. Try to figure out the things that make you anxious, and try to find the solutions for those, either yourself or with somebody else, with the people around you. And then also just try to do the things that you like. I'm finally doing the stuff that I like, and it feels a lot better. Finally doing public speaking, and that feels a lot better. You should be a cyclone aide when the opportunity arises, because it makes you slightly more extroverted than I was, at least. But yeah, just find cool stuff to do around and just go do it. I signed up for something at the start of the month, and I was in a group with a bunch of people. One person I knew and a couple people I didn't, and we worked together for not even a full month, and then we came up with something that'll actually hopefully be used on campus. Well,
it was awesome having you on, Drew, and I can't wait for another.
Awesome being here.